Australian retailers are crying foul with overseas online competitors dodging the GST on goods of less than $1,000. The latest missive in this campaign is a specially commissioned report which claims tens of thousands of local jobs are at stake. But will moving that tax-free threshold really be the leveller retailers are crying out for? Rebecca Nash takes a look.
Price and convenience are luring shoppers to the internet, and for Australians sometimes those prices can be jaw-dropping.
People can source their products anywhere up from 40 to 60% lower prices via the internet from offshore providers.
Some of the discount is due to the low value threshold, or LVT, where overseas purchases under $1,000 don't attract the GST.
Unless the government acts quickly to close this tax loophole, we're going to see very substantial job losses across the Australian retail sector, and that's been measured at around 33,000 jobs.
That's the conclusion of an Ernst & Young study of the LVT's economic impact commissioned by the National Retail Association.
We cannot expect to see these shifts of domestic trade offshore and not expect substantial job losses.
But some are questioning the report's findings.
Is the LVT having the size of effect that the Ernst & Young report suggests? Almost certainly not. Is that the big story in Australian retailing? No.
Former ACCC Commissioner Stephen King says only about 2% of Australia's retail spend is at overseas websites. He argues enforcing a $0 threshold would cost far more than it would recoup. Even reducing the threshold to, say, $100 wouldn't be worthwhile because 90% of offshore purchases are less than that.
Now, the idea that capturing 1/4% of retail sales in a low-value threshold is going to save 33,000 bricks-and-mortar retail jobs, I just think that is incredible.
There's no denying that retail is having a tough time in Australia at the moment.
The sales line is really being impacted pretty badly by poor consumer confidence. They're paying above CPI increases in rent, and labour costs are rising.
It means US and even UK bricks and mortar shops are undercutting Australian prices by half.
They've got an enormous population and much more store numbers so they can offer product at a lower price, take a lower gross margin.
So it's not the internet per se or online transactions per se that's causing the problem. There's something wrong with our bricks and mortar model here in Australia.
A lot of that has to do with the economies of scale, and if we can close this tax loophole, we think our pricing will be competitive within 2 or 3 years.
But some say in that time a substantial amount of what we buy overseas on the internet will be very difficult to track.
By 2015, most of those books brought in from overseas, pretty much all of the music and pretty much all of the film will be coming across as data. So all of those electronic transactions, for all practical purposes, they will not be taxed.
The National Retail Association says calling for the scrapping of the LVT is as much about protecting Australian online stores.
We don't believe that we can have a competitive online sector while this price disadvantage prevails.
I can't see them actually matching the prices of the offshore alternatives via the internet.
The share of employment retail's been going down for 10 years. They predict it's going to continue going on. Most of those 118,000 jobs that they look at, most of them will be lost regardless of the low value threshold.
And coupled with advances in technology at the checkout and in distribution, the outlook isn't particularly rosy.